Agricultural property taxes were our #1 priority as we went into the legislative session this year. We had worked over the past year with a group of key leaders who formed a Minnesota Farm Bureau property tax task force. They had come up with a number of recommendations that were incorporated into our Farm Bureau policy last year, and also then were put together in a working strategy going into this session. We were active in supporting legislation that brought about a change in the basis for debt bonding for schools and local governments, so that we would have the foundation of that tax be based on house, garage, and 1 acre, as opposed to the current process of using market values where all agricultural property is used in taking that type of a tax burden. That type of a tax burden amounts to about 10 times the amount required to be paid for of local property taxes by farmers versus their counterparts who just have a home, garage, and whatever property that particular that those facilities sit on. Well, it's going to, the end result in the legislative process was that nothing was done this session. The decision was made in a conference that we had been working toward getting things put in place that would be solutions, that there wasn't going to be a tax bill. And so because there was no tax bill, the solutions that we had queued up to move forward didn't happen. So for farmers and property owners that have agricultural property, they're in the same boat as they were before. And we are concerned about that and need to have some attention given to further making sure that down the road there is relief in place and that we have some type of solutions going forward. Well, we have been involved in supporting a variety of legislative proposals that were oriented to bringing about solutions. Our #1 proposal based on our Farm Bureau policy was to shift the debt bond approach to have taxes be based on a house, garage, and 1 acre, as opposed to having it be based on a total agricultural property being included in the tax, in the net that's used to determine what gets paid. And so we were wanting to move that change forward. We were able to have legislation introduced. We supported that change in committee. We weren't able to get it through. There wasn't much of an appetite as we move forward to that or various iterations of that type of an approach. In the end, we basically had a proposal that was going to set up an ability for farmers to have half of their agricultural property taxes that were associated with debt bonds for schools to be reduced by half. So that, of course, was not something that we were able to get through because of no tax bill. But nevertheless, that seemed to be the solution that was in play for possibly bringing it about. We also worked very well with, I think, other agricultural organizations and other education community folks in building some, I think, some lasting, hopefully lasting relationships that we can move forward in as we go forward to try to figure out what solutions might be possible. Because nothing changed in the 2015 legislative session, the things that we had in place before in terms of the burden and perhaps the inability to meet that burden are still in play, especially as we've seen property taxes continue to go up and the ability with revenue to pay for those to go down. So it's going to continue to be an issue that needs attention. Some of the things that surfaced during the session that were probably also going to need attention, especially from a policy standpoint. There were discussions on how we might change the system that's used for determining market or value for agricultural property, moving from a market value system to maybe a more productivity-oriented version, whether it be in the form of what crops are produced, or the expenses associated with those crop production. So you would have an income factor or perhaps a rent type of an approach used to determine how property taxes are going to be based. We also saw during the legislative session an initiative by some very key and powerful legislators to try to see if they could narrow the current system that's being used for determining agricultural homestead credit and who's qualified to receive those homestead credits. That's going to be a discussion we're going to have in how we address that particular issue going forward. I think lastly, we need to recognize that the current foundation of our policy is based on trying to bring about an equity between taxpayers that involves everybody paying on the same basis of a house, garage, and the property that house and garage sit on. However, as we look at the legislative and the politics, it's going to be very difficult to get that type of a policy accomplished because of the shift that is brought about when agricultural property owners are brought down and don't have to pay as much because of the equalization that's being brought about. That means that the other property taxes classes in the group have to pay more. And with that extra payment coming on the shoulders and the wallets of homeowners, that's not a group that the elected officials are interested in turning around against them. So it's going to be a very challenging approach to get that type of policy adopted, and we need to look at what other solutions we might be able to achieve.